In a catastrophe that has stunned the global aviation community, a deadly mid-air collision between the passenger aircraft over India has raised serious questions about air safety and international flight control systems. The incident, now being described as one of the worst mid-air aviation disasters in the world, occurred when the commercial jets traveling at high altitude reportedly crossed paths in congested Indian airspace. According to early reports, both aircraft were carrying hundreds of passengers and crew members. The crash happened within seconds, leaving almost no time for evasive action. Aviation analysts say that at cruising speeds of over 500 miles per hour, even the smallest error can become fatal. Investigators are now racing against time to understand exactly how the modern, radar-tracked aircraft ended up in the same section of sky. Eyewitnesses on the ground described seeing a bright flash followed by a fireball tearing through the clouds. Pieces of wreckage fell across wide stretches of rural land, damaging homes, roads, and farmland. Emergency response teams were immediately dispatched, but the remote terrain made rescue operations extremely difficult. Flames from the aircraft wreckage reportedly burned for hours, sending thick smoke into the air invisible from miles away. The Indian Directorate General of Civil Aviation (DGCA) has launched a full-scale investigation, while international aviation experts from the United States and Europe have offered assistance. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board has expressed readiness to help analyze crucial flight data recorders and cockpit voice recordings to reconstruct the final moments before the collision. Experts believe several potential factors could have contributed to this tragedy. These include possible miscommunication between air traffic control and flight crews, technical faults in radar tracking systems, human error, or failure of the aircraft's collision avoidance systems, known as TCAS. These systems are designed to automatically warn pilots when another aircraft comes dangerously close and instruct them on emergency maneuvers. Aviation officials stress that commercial flying remains one of the safest forms of transportation. However, rare disasters such as this expose hidden weaknesses inside complex air traffic control networks. The rapid growth of air travel in South Asia has placed increasing strain on airspace management, making precision and coordination more critical than ever. Families of victims have been plunged into deep grief as authorities work to identify remains and notify relatives. Airlines around the world have expressed condolences, and flags at major airports have been lowered in respect. This tragedy has now sparked global debate about the future of aviation safety. With thousands of planes in the sky at any given moment, experts warn that only stronger technology, better coordination, and global cooperation can prevent such disasters in the future. As the world continues to process the shock of the deadly mid-air collision over India, attention has now turned to accountability, aviation technology, and the role of global safety systems. Aviation experts in the United States are speaking out, warning that this tragedy may represent not just a single failure, but a series of breakdowns across communication, technology, and international standards. The collision, which occurred at cruising altitude, instantly turned a commercial aircraft into debris clouds, with wreckage scattered across miles of rural Indian territory. Emergency responders described scenes of devastation, with burning fragments, damaged homes, and families searching desperately for missing loved ones. The scale of destruction has drawn comparisons in American media to the worst air disasters in modern aviation history. Officials from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and TSB confirmed they have offered technical assistance to Indian investigators. Teams of U.S. aviation specialists are reportedly ready to help analyze radar tracking, pilot communications, and the flight data and cockpit voice recorders recovered from the crash sites. These black boxes are expected to provide crucial information about the final seconds before the impact. In Washington, lawmakers quickly responded to news of the disaster. Several members of Congress called for stronger international aviation cooperation, especially in high-traffic airspaces like South Asia. While no U.S. aircraft were directly involved in the collision, American aviation authorities began quietly reviewing domestic air traffic control procedures to ensure similar risks do not exist in U.S. skies. Experts say that while modern commercial planes are equipped with traffic collision avoidance systems, or TCAS, these systems rely heavily on accurate data from air traffic controllers and transponders. If either aircraft transmits incorrect altitude or position data, automated systems can fail or provide conflicting commands to pilots. Former Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) officials explained that even a delay of a few seconds in communication can be deadly. At typical cruising speeds, jets can close the distance of several miles in less than half a minute. This leaves almost no time for human reaction when systems fail. The tragedy has also reignited debate in the United States about modernization of global air traffic control. Some American experts argue that developing countries are still operating with outdated radar and communication equipment. They believe that wealthier nations should help fund global upgrades to ensure that safety standards are consistent across international airspace. Meanwhile, families of victims, including several U.S. citizens believed to be on board, as investigators continued their work following the catastrophic mid-air collision over India. Aviation experts across the United States are now focused on one critical question: could this disaster have been prevented? The growing consensus inside the aviation community is that while the skies are technologically advanced, they are not immune to human error, system failure, or coordination breakdowns. Early analysis suggests the collision may have resulted from a deadly error chain. This aviation term refers to multiple small failures occurring simultaneously, overwhelming even the most experienced pilots and sophisticated systems. Experts believe these failures could have included miscommunication for air traffic controllers, incorrect altitude readings from aircraft transponders, and possible delays in automated collision avoidance alerts. In Washington, policymakers are pushing for sweeping reforms. Members of Congress are now discussing mandatory international standards for next-generation air traffic control technologies. Proposals include the wider use of satellite-based tracking systems, artificial intelligence-assisted traffic monitoring, and real-time global aircraft positioning networks. These technologies could allow air traffic controllers to detect potential collisions minutes in advance rather than seconds. Former Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) safety officials have urged that simulator training for mid-air collision scenarios become a global requirement for commercial pilots. While pilots already train for engine failure and emergency landings, mid-air collision avoidance training is not always practiced at the required frequency worldwide. Another major concern now under review is the rapid overcrowding of international airspace. With global air travel expanding at a record pace, especially in Asia, the margins for error are shrinking. Experts warn that the world's busiest air corridors are approaching saturation, creating dangerous pressure on outdated management systems. This disaster has also triggered conversation about the responsibility of aircraft manufacturers. Aviation analysts suggest new aircraft should be required to carry more independent backup collision avoidance systems that do not rely solely on ground-based data. These systems could operate through direct aircraft-to-aircraft communication, reducing dependence on air traffic controllers during critical moments. In international diplomatic circles, the tragedy is now being discussed as a global aviation wake-up call. The United States, European Union, and several Asian nations are expected to meet in upcoming aviation safety summits to review international flight standards and emergency protocols. For families of the victims, however, no reform will be enough to replace what was lost. Memorials continue to grow, with candles, flowers, and handwritten messages appearing at airports and public squares around the world.